Welcome to Am I the Butthole? Where someone tries to poison op with milk. This story is from Unhappy Marrying 757, where Op's office kept asking what was the sick day for. Am I the butthole for saying circumcision? When the office lady wouldn't stop asking me what my sick day was for. Throwaway because, are you serious? I too am a middle school teacher who failed up into a job I'm not qualified for, and I've been so stressed that I lost 15 pounds. I called off work a week in advance for a mental health day to get a sub and filled out an office form for a sick day. Because I don't have, personal PTO yet. The office lady wasn't thrilled with my form and kept asking why I was calling off, how I knew I'd be sick a week in advance, etc. I tried to deflect with it's personal, just a doctor's appointment, all that shit, and she wouldn't drop it. She said I could take a half day for an appointment. Shouldn't use my sick time. And I sure wasn't gonna tell her my sick day was a sick of this job's bullshit day, so the fourth or fifth time she asked, I just snapped and said, circumcision, I'm getting circumcised again. No idea where it came from since I'm not Jewish, but it ended the conversation. I've been told that this was rude, and that I should have just walked away, but I try to end all conversations long before circumcision comes up. But also as a teacher, I know I should be professional, and I'm gonna have fairly regular contact with this lady, so am I the butthole? TL Doctor, am I the butthole for saying my day off was for a circumcision? Edit alright. Thanks. Guys, I'm gonna apologize anyway, because this lady is in charge of printer funds, and I don't want her mad. If she asks again, though, I'm telling her that they found a lump. You weren't necessarily wrong for feeling frustrated with the office lady's persistent questioning. But it might have been better if you had handled the situation differently. Instead of snapping and making a joke about circumcision, you could have remained calm and firmly explained that it was a personal matter that you didn't feel comfortable discussing. It's important to maintain professionalism, especially since you have regular contact with her as a teacher. However, it's understandable that you were caught off guard and wanted to end the conversation. Just remember to handle similar situations more tactfully in the future. This story is from Throwaway, where Op chooses a name for her daughter that her grandma hates. Am I the butthole for giving my daughter a name my grandma hates? I to 7F gave birth to my husband's 31 meters, and my first child almost 2 months ago. She's a perfect little girl, and I was so excited to have my family meet her. I have 3 older sisters who all have kids as well. A fun tradition that my family does is to have a small get-together once the baby is about 3 months old. We don't announce the baby's name until after the birth, to make it a surprise. At the little party, we give the parents a bunch of little gifts that have the new baby's name on them. My grandmother always quilts a beautiful baby blanket and embroiders the baby's name. She's done this for all my sisters and cousins. The issue is the name my husband and I chose for our daughter. For context, my grandma has a unique history with her own name. She was born as Lucille, but from the time she was 8, she told every single person she met that her name was Barbara. She did this for years until even her family called her Barbara. She even got her name legally changed. When I was a child, I always asked her why she changed it. She simply said she liked Barbara better. It became a family joke, but she never seemed upset about it and always laughed with us. My husband's grandmother raised him from when he was a baby to when she passed away when he was 19. Her favorite celebrity was Lucille Ball. She and my husband used to watch I Love Lucy all the time together. He misses her very much and said that he would love to honor her in some way. Her name was Mary, but we chose to have that as our daughter's middle name. We decided that Lucy is a name we both loved and would honor his grandmother and maybe make mine chuckle a bit. After I gave birth, my husband and I were FaceTiming my entire family when we announced the name. A few of my relatives laughed and said it was cute, but my grandma was dead silent. When I asked her what was wrong, she demanded to know why I chose Lucy. I was shocked and confused. I began to try and explain, but she suddenly hung up. This greatly dampened the mood. My grandma wouldn't answer any calls from me afterwards. I asked my oldest sister, and she said that my grandma was apparently offended and thought we were mocking her. She said she's not coming to the party in a few weeks to meet my daughter in person and that she's not giving the baby quilt to us unless we apologize. and change our daughter's name. I don't know why it's escalated so much. My grandma has always been kind. I have no idea what to do. Births in my family are always celebrated in happy events. But this has ruined it. I almost feel like some of my relatives are ignoring me because they don't want to pick sides, but I don't even understand why there's a fight. Dealing with this along with my newborn has been incredibly stressful. My family is puzzled as well. But most of them are saying I shouldn't have chosen a name I knew my grandmother disliked. Or at least asked her about it first. Am I the butthole? Edit. Thank you all so much for your comments and advice. It's given me a lot to think about. I didn't expect my post to get this much attention. So I'm still working my way through reading them. I've seen a lot of comments asking why I didn't even think to ask my grandmother about the name or why I would pick the name she obviously disliked. Like I said earlier, when I was a kid, she just said she liked Barbara better. That's what I've known my whole life. So I didn't really dig into it too much. Now I feel like an idiot. I honestly never intended to hurt her feelings. I never even considered that she changed it for any deeper reason than just an aesthetic preference. I don't know too much specifically about any childhood trauma with her, but I do know her dad passed away when she was about 6 years old. So maybe that has something to do with it? I'm not planning to ask her for specifics, because I don't want to open any more old wounds than I already have. For right now, I'm taking a few comments suggestion and am planning to write her a handwritten note apologizing, explaining everything and asking to talk. She has a bit of a hard time with technology, so I think this will be a good way to show I genuinely want to discuss this and never meant to hurt her. I'm still not entirely sure about what to do with the name, but for now, my one priority is getting into contact with her and fixing our relationship. Another question that I've seen a lot is why my husband and I didn't just name our daughter Mary, or why I didn't use my grandmother's preferred name. Somewhere with my daughter, I have a good number of nieces and nephews, and 2 of my nieces already have Barbara as a middle name. So I thought I'd do something a bit different. I like it, but I don't prefer it as my daughter's first name. As for my husband, he has only one niece, and she is already named Mary. I didn't want my daughter to have to share a name with her cousin. So that's why we tried to come up with a different way to honor his grandmother. Another group of comments I've seen has been asking why I ever thought that this would make her chuckle. My family doesn't joke around about it too much, but every now and then, someone will say something along the lines of, "What do you think you're gonna change your name to next?" And she would let out a couple laughs. This led me to believe that she was lighthearted about the whole thing. Looking back, I'm just now realizing that that was only polite laughter, and I don't think she enjoyed it. I never thought about it as a little girl, so I went my entire life thinking she was fine with everything. I feel awfully guilty now, and I'll be sure to apologize to her for that as well once I see her again. You could have handled the situation better by asking your grandmother about her feelings towards the name before making the decision. It's understandable that you wanted to honor your husband's grandmother and make your own grandmother chuckle, but it seems like there may have been some miscommunication or misunderstanding along the way. It's important to reach out to your grandmother, apologize for any unintentional hurt caused, and have an open and honest conversation to resolve the issue and mend your relationship. This story is from Cranberry Puzzled 9125, where Op decides to leave her son's inheritance to his daughter. Am the first to butthole for leaving my son's share of my estate to his daughter. My other kids don't think I am being fair. My spineless son, Richard 38 meters, has prioritized his wife and stepkids over his own daughter, Haley 18F. It has happened multiple times, and I have decided to disinherit him and rescind his stepkids' 529 college funds. I am not here for judgment on whether I should disinherit him or rescind the college funds, but if it's fair to my other 2 kids by leaving my granddaughter an equal share of my estate. The way my will is currently written, my estate will be split equally 3 ways. I have set up 529 funds for all my grandchildren, of which I am the sole owner, and that is all I plan for them to receive, with the exception of family heirlooms. I'm seeing my lawyer on Friday to make the change. My other 2 kids 41 meters 36F say it's not fair to their kids. Everyone agrees that Richard, his wife, and stepkids are disowned and out of the family. Richard is extremely upset, but you reap what you sow. He is certainly not going to leave anything to Haley now. My other 2 kids have substantial assets themselves, and will be leaving their assets to their children. I don't understand why Haley should not get her father's portion, given this circumstance. They think I should leave. Is shared to all the grandkids equally. I am not so convinced. Am I the butthole? You're not the butthole here. It seems that Richard has consistently prioritized his wife and stepkids over his own daughter, Haley. It's understandable that you feel the need to disinherit him and rescind the college funds. In terms of your will, it seems fair to leave an equal share of your estate to your other two kids and Haley. Considering the circumstances, your decision might not align with what your other two kids want, but it's important to prioritize fairness and your granddaughter's well-being. This story is from Technical Pace 1581, where Op gives his girlfriend a fake gem. Am I the butthole for not telling my girlfriend that the gem I gave her was fake? I too some have fake gems made of glass on my desk for decoration. They all look real, and my girlfriend saw them and asked me if she could have one. Not really thinking about it, I said yes, and we went on with our night. When she left, she took one of the gems with her, and a few hours later, she called me to yell at me for not telling her the gems were fake. I asked her why it mattered, and she said she tried to sell it, but the buyer told her it was fake. I told her I didn't think she would sell it, so I didn't think to tell her it was fake. However, she called me an butthole anyway. So, am I the butthole? You could have been more considerate of your girlfriend's intentions when she asked for a gem, although you didn't think she would sell it. You should have informed her that they were fake, however. Her reaction seems excessive, as she could have simply returned the gem instead of calling you. Names, both parties could have communicated better in this situation. This story is from Here for the Bagels 100, where Op's parents spread inappropriate lies about her and her husband. Am I the butthole for avoiding my parents after discovering they were spreading super inappropriate lies about my husband and me? Last year, my husband H and I met my parents and an uncle for Thanksgiving. They had been vacationing together a few days prior. As we were leaving, my aunt, who was visibly upset, pulled me aside and said, "I need to talk to you. Can you call me in a few days?" I asked if she was okay, and she replied, "Yes. I just need to ask you something, but not now." When I called to ask what was going on, my aunt said, "I heard something that seems very out of character for you, and I want to see if it's true." Evidently, a few days before Thanksgiving, my parents told her an untrue story about how my current husband and I met. To note, I was separated at the time from my now ex-husband when we met. She explained, according to my parents, I met H while online soliciting for a proposed threesome with my ex-husband, as a last-ditch effort to salvage my then failing marriage. However, during this tryst, H and I supposedly realized we had a connection which led us to be together while choosing to dissolve my previous marriage. My parents shared more gross details, but I'll spare you. I was shocked as none of this was true. We met at work through mutual friends, and our romantic relationship developed slowly over a period of time. I had repeatedly told my parents how we met, and even introduced our mutual friends to my parents at our wedding as the ones who got us together. So, I FaceTimed my parents and asked them why they're lying about us behind our backs. They look me dead in the eyes and say, "Because that's what you told us." Excuse me? When I refuted this, my dad proceeds to get angry at me, saying that I must have amnesia as my mom stormed off, refusing to discuss the issue. The rest of the call is me sitting in silence, while he attempted to gaslight me. I'm dumbfounded. A few days later, I get a call from my cousin. She explains that my dad had told her husband the same story. Almost 8 years ago they had believed it until now. My cousin apologized for not saying anything sooner, but the story made them so uncomfortable they didn't know what to do. H and I wrote my parents an email, explaining what we had discovered and asked them some simple questions, like why did you make this up? Who else have you told? Etc. We've been emailing back and forth for almost a year, and gotten nowhere. Their story keeps changing, the blame keeps shifting, and they have continuously tried to diminish the seriousness of this issue, even saying, "No one thinks any less of you because of it." What? It never happened, period. The only apology we've gotten is "we're sorry for upsetting you." You mean you're not sorry for lying about your daughter? For 10 years? Most recently, they have almost demanded that we forgive them and move on. Since we haven't forgiven them yet, We're responsible for my mother crying all the time and essentially breaking the family apart. So, am I the butthole for wanting to continue to avoid my parents, even though I'm tearing the family apart? You are not the butthole in this situation. It is understandable that you would want to distance yourself from your parents after they fabricated a false story about you and your husband. Their actions were hurtful and disrespectful. It is their responsibility to take ownership of their lies and apologize sincerely, rather than shifting blame and pressuring you to forgive them. Your feelings and well-being should be prioritized. This story is from Mobile Watercress 12, where Op tells his daughter to stop being an entitled brat. Am I the butthole for telling my stepdaughter she needs to grow up and stop expecting everyone else to cater to her diet because she wants to lose weight? I for 5F have been a stepmother to Lucy 17F for the past 2 years. I also have a son, Jack 15 meters, from my previous relationship. For the first 18 months that I knew Lucy, she was in love with junk food. She would use the money she would get from babysitting the neighbor's kids to buy cookies, chips, and ice cream all the time. It was very unhealthy how much of that crap she was eating. I tried to politely encourage her to switch to something healthier that still tasted good, like yogurt. But she would always respond with "You're not my mom" and stop controlling my body. Because of this, she's put on a lot of weight. Anyway, about 6 months ago, she got into an argument with a boy in school. They called each other names, and he ended up calling her a hippo. That made her really self-conscious, and she's been trying to improve her health since then. She threw out all the junk food we had at home and tries to exercise 3-4 times a week. She's been making steady progress, and I'm happy that she's been taking care of herself. My son, however, has recently taken a liking to Doritos chips. He doesn't eat a lot of it, maybe a packet every other week. He mostly eats it in his room, so Lucy hasn't seen him eating them. But a couple of days ago, he was watching a TV show downstairs and he decided to eat his chips. I was cooking in the kitchen, but then I heard an argument. So I ran out to figure out what was going wrong. Lucy was mad at Jack for eating chips and told him to throw it out because she's trying to lose weight. My son said he can eat whatever he wants. I tried to calmly tell Lucy that Jack is allowed to eat in a common space, and if what he's eating is tempting her, she can nicely ask him to put it away or she can go to another room until he finishes if he declines her request. That just made her angrier, and she accused me of playing favorites and sabotaging her progress. This pissed me off because I've done nothing but support her. These past few months, I firmly told her she's almost 18 and she needs to grow up and accept that not everyone will follow her diet, especially in their own homes. She cried to her mom, who's now blowing up my phone, calling me an expletive for not supporting her daughter. My husband, her dad, is on my side, but after sleeping on it, I think I could have used a gentler tone. So, am I the butthole? You are not the butthole in this situation. It's important to support Lucy's efforts to improve her health, but it's also crucial to respect everyone's autonomy in their own home. You tried to find a reasonable compromise by suggesting that Lucy can ask Jack to put away the chips or remove herself from the situation, which is fair. However, you could have approached the conversation with a gentler tone to avoid escalating the situation further. This story is from Alarming Up 3027, where Op denies his son a spot on the family vacation. Am I the butthole for telling my son that he's not coming on vacation because he didn't check his emails? I'm planning a family Thanksgiving vacation, and a really good deal came up to go to the Cook Islands. I emailed my 20-year-old son, Ollie, on Friday and called on Sunday to see if he wanted to go. He's in college, and I'm not wasting money on a ticket if he didn't want to go. I needed to know by today because I have to get visas for my 16, 11, and 8-year-old sons. Well, he didn't, so I bought the package. Just now, he texted me saying he wanted to go. I said, "Too late. Already bought the tickets. Next time, check your email or answer your phone." He said most people communicate on text. I said, well, most people don't get to go to the Cook Islands. Now, his mom, my ex, is trying to tell me that he's Gen Z, and text is their primary communication format. Had I texted him, then he would have responded. I said, I don't care. I'm well in my 40s and check all of my communication formats, because I don't want to miss anything. You could have handled the situation better by understanding that communication preferences differ among generations. While it's frustrating that your son didn't respond promptly, dismissing his preferred communication method might have caused unnecessary tension. A better approach would have been to discuss the importance of timely communication and find a compromise that respects both your needs. This story is from Kaleidoscope 3504, where Op kicks her niece out the house. Am I the butthole for telling my niece she'll have to move out if she's not my nanny anymore? I'm a single mom to 2 kids 8-6. I work as a nurse 3 days a week. I work 12-hour shifts 12 p.m. 12 a.m. After my husband passed, I needed a nanny to tend to my kids from the time they got off school 3 p.m. onwards. I decided a live-in was the best choice. I have 1 guest bedroom. I live right near a university. Round this time, my niece had just gotten accepted. She wanted to save costs on dorms and offered to watch my kids those 3 days if she could live there rent-free. I agreed and said I'd also pay her $20 an hour, a competitive rate for our area. She's done with her classes by 1, so it works out. She fixes them dinner and puts them to bed. Then she's free to do whatever. But of course, I pay her from 3 p.m. 12:30 a.m. It worked for 2 years. My niece never had any complaints. Now, however, my niece is getting a paid internship related to her major that starts in January. She wouldn't be available to watch my kids. I congratulated her and said I could help her look into student housing or an apartment. We'd have 3 months to do this. She was confused. I said since I would need a live-in and only have 1 guest room, she would have to move out. My niece got upset and said this isn't fair. She won't be able to save any money if she gets a dorm or an apartment. She could afford to live on her own but wouldn't have much savings. I pointed out that this would work best for me, as I had to put my kids in aftercare the other 2 days I work. I get off around 5, and the nanny could just pick them up from school instead of them having to stay there so long. My niece argued that the nanny could leave at the end of her shift, but after speaking to some nannies, they understandably don't want to drive home so late. Plus, I'm fine with the nanny and my niece sleeping after the kids do. So, there's no sense in them sleeping then waking up and driving so drowsy. Even I feel nervous driving home so late, especially after my long shift. My sister-in-law, her mom, feels this is unfair to my niece, but she moved in under the condition that she'd work as a nanny. My sister-in-law and brother live 3 hours away, so my niece couldn't commute if she moved back in with them. They feel I should try to find a nanny who'd be willing to drive home at 12:30 a.m. It'd take me a half-hour minimum to get home, but all nannies I've spoken to have said no, or expressed concern about their safety driving so late. Am I the butthole? Edit to answer from fact. The internship is all semester long. My niece isn't interested in nannying at all going forward, and will instead be pursuing internships. She has no desire to work after her internship is over for the day. She knew from the jump that I was only looking for a live-in, specifically for childcare. I have also provided her written notice, and I am covering myself legally. This story is from Confidence Session 7848, where Op fires their therapist after the therapist demanded tips. Am I the butthole for firing our family therapist after she asked for tips? My ex and I have a 12-year-old boy who's going through some things. We found a therapist, and we've been seeing her for a couple of years. It hasn't been life-changing for me in any way. In fact, it became more of a pointless chore, like making your bed or folding your underwear. I might have gotten a few things out of it, but would not do it again. A few weeks ago, I had told our therapist that it's bizarre to not have to worry about money. For the first time in my life, I make good money and don't have many bills. I'm saving like $1,000 a month. Last week, the therapist asked me if I could start making a co-payment. I don't have a co-payment because my insurance covers 100 of therapy sessions. I explained that to her. She said that was true, but maybe I could start paying like 20 cash, because she's not making a lot with what my insurance pays her, like a tip. I was at a loss for words. I said, and I suppose this has no relation to my telling you that I had disposable income a few weeks ago. She said, of course not. It was like she was asking for a raise, lol. I said I'd think about it. I found nothing about tipping your therapist. I talked to my ex and said I was firing the therapist. She told me not to throw away 2 years of work, and I said this therapist tried taking advantage of me. She offered to pay, and I said, "I'm not stopping you, but I'm not doing the sessions anymore, and neither is our son." The trust I had in our therapist is forever broken. I left a voicemail and text message explaining we weren't in need of services anymore. I haven't heard back. Guess what? Our lives didn't fall apart. And the therapist replied that I totally misunderstood this whole tip thing. You overreacted in this situation. While it might have been frustrating to be asked for a tip, it seems like a miscommunication rather than an attempt to take advantage of you. Instead of immediately firing the therapist, you could have discussed your concerns and clarified the situation. Taking the time to communicate could have potentially resolved the issue and prevented the breakdown of trust. This story is from Do Comparison 8976, where Op's friend married her ex. Am I the butthole for warning my friend about my ex, who she is now engaged to, and telling her to stop complaining about things I warned her about? Now, a year and a half later, side note, I caught my ex trying to mess with my birth control once, which made my intimacy drive trust just fall and was a big domino in our breakup. He wants kids yet can't bring himself to shower more than 1 in 3 days. She called me crying. They are now engaged with the ring I gave back to him, and she is pregnant. She's at the end of her line. He doesn't help with the house and pays little on bills. He told her his pregnant girlfriend to go donate blood. If she was so worried about money, I let her cry for an hour. How he's lazy and refuses to work, his negative attitude, and how he's sexting bots online, but how it isn't cheating since it's AI. How lazy and shitty he is. She even read old stories that I told her of what he did to me. I felt numb to listen to it, and just thank God it wasn't me. This was what I was afraid of. This is why I left him. At the end, I just mustered, "Sue, I told you this would happen when you started dating." Not like a sneery jab, just an emotional, honest one. She hung up. She hasn't tried to contact me since. Am I the butthole for trying to tell my BFF how my ex was when they started dating, and being unsympathetic now that the same things I told her are coming true? You're not the butthole in this situation. It's understandable that you would want to warn your friend about your ex's behavior, especially considering the negative experiences you had with him. You were looking out for her and expressing your concerns honestly. It's unfortunate that your friend didn't take your advice seriously, but it's not your fault that the same issues you warned her about are now happening to her. You showed empathy by listening to her when she called and shared her struggles. It's important to remember that people have to make their own choices, even if they don't align with our opinions.
Thank you for watching. I hope these stories brought you the relaxation you came here for, whether you're winding down or just starting your day. If you have any thoughts or ideas for my next stream, drop them down in the comments and let me know if you like these stories by dropping a like. Also, follow me on my social media because I drop Reddit content every day.